When God is warning you to move, don't ignore this sign. There are moments in life when everything around you seems normal, yet something inside you refuses to stay quiet. It rises slowly, like a whisper in the spirit, then grows into a weight you cannot explain. You try to ignore it, you try to rationalize it, but the truth is simple. God is warning you, not with thunder or dramatic signs. He warns you through that quiet unrest, that sudden shift in your emotions, that inner pull telling you your current season has reached its limit. You sense it, but you hesitate, afraid to step out of what feels familiar. This message is for the person who has been carrying a tension they cannot describe, the person who feels the ground beneath them changing, even though nothing external seems different. Deep down, you know that God has been stirring something in your heart. You know He has been trying to get your attention. You know He has been preparing you for a move, a shift, a new direction that you can no longer postpone. God never moves you without purpose. He never shakes you without intention. When He calls you to move, it is because the place where you stand can no longer hold the future He designed for you. You have been asking for clarity. You have been searching for confirmation. You have been waiting for a sign that this discomfort is not fear, but guidance. Today, you will understand what that feeling inside you really is. Today, you will recognize the markers that reveal when God is urging you to step into something new. Do not ignore the stirring. Do not silence the calling. This is not random confusion. This is not emotional instability. This is the voice of God pressing into your spirit, telling you it is time to move. Stay with me, because what comes next may be the confirmation you have been praying for. The restless shift within you has meaning. The tension is not your enemy. It is divine direction beginning to take shape. And once you see it clearly, you will understand why God brought you here today. The moment your soul stops feeling at home. There comes a moment in every believer's journey when the world around them appears unchanged, yet something deep within shifts in a way that cannot be ignored. It is subtle at first, almost gentle, like a soft shadow passing through the heart. You go about your day the same way you always have, interacting with the same people, following the same routines, living inside the same familiar patterns. But suddenly the atmosphere inside you no longer matches the environment around you. The comfort you once felt begins to thin out. What once felt natural now feels foreign. This internal disconnection is one of the earliest and most profound warnings God gives when He is preparing to shift your life. You try to tell yourself it is nothing. You try to imagine that maybe you are just tired or stressed, but the feeling does not fade. It grows. You start waking up with a heaviness you cannot explain. You move through your day, sensing that something is missing, something is shifting, something is calling you beyond the boundaries you have been living in. You begin noticing that the places where you once found peace now feel cramped. The relationships you relied on for emotional stability no longer carry the same weight. Even your personal aspirations start feeling outdated, like they belong to someone you used to be but no longer are. This is not confusion, and it is not instability. It is the spiritual tension that comes when God is pulling your spirit toward a chapter that your current life cannot support. Your soul begins to whisper truths your mind is not ready to admit. You sense that where you are is no longer where you belong. You may still enjoy aspects of your environment, yet something inside refuses to settle. It refuses to anchor itself to a season that has expired. This inner detachment is God's way of guiding you without forcing you. He removes your emotional comfort so you can no longer sink into the place He's trying to lead you out of. When your soul stops feeling at home, it is not rebellion, it is recognition. Your spirit senses the shift before your life reflects it. You may notice yourself becoming more reflective. You start questioning things you never questioned before. Not with frustration, but with a quiet spiritual alertness. Your spirit knows it is being prepared. You become more aware of the emptiness in routines that once felt fulfilling. Your heart no longer finds nourishment in what used to sustain it. You feel the pull towards something undefined, something beyond your current understanding. This is God loosening your roots. He does not tear you abruptly from one season and throw you into another. Instead, he gently loosens the soil around your foundation, making it impossible for you to cling to patterns that cannot hold the weight of who you are becoming. This moment also reveals the difference between comfort and calling. Comfort keeps you where you are. Calling pulls you toward who you were created to be. When God begins to transition you, he allows the comfort of the present to fade, so the call of the future becomes undeniable. The discomfort is not a sign that something is wrong. It's a sign that something is unfolding. God is stretching the borders of your spirit, preparing you to grow in directions that your present environment could never accommodate. He is preparing you for expansion, purpose, and alignment with his design for your life. As this internal shift grows stronger, you may feel torn between the life you know and the life God is preparing. This tension is sacred. It is the space where transformation begins. You start noticing that even your prayers change. Instead of asking God to make your current situation easier, you begin asking him to show you what is next. Instead of begging him to restore what you have lost, you start seeking clarity for where he is leading. These changes are not accidental. They are evidence that your spirit is responding to God's invitation to rise. When your soul stops feeling at home, it is not a sign of failure, it is a sign of maturity. You are evolving spiritually, mentally, and emotionally. You are shedding an old identity and stepping into a new one. God does not let your soul settle in places that are too small for your destiny. He disrupts your comfort so you do not accidentally build a permanent life in a temporary season. The uneasiness you feel is not meant to discourage you. It is meant to direct you. It is meant to remind you that your story is not finished. It is meant to awaken the truth that God is preparing to move you into a season that aligns with his purpose for your life. And when that moment arrives, every ounce of discomfort you feel now will make sense. When God interrupts your predictable patterns, there comes a time when the rhythm of your life, the one you have followed for months or years, suddenly stops flowing the way it used to. You wake up expecting the same routine to carry you, but something in the atmosphere has shifted. What once unfolded smoothly now feels disrupted, not violently and not chaotically, but quietly, in a way that forces you to pay attention. This is one of the most overlooked ways God speaks. He interrupts patterns that became too familiar, too automatic, too comfortable, so that you no longer live on spiritual autopilot. When God is preparing to move you, he often begins by stopping the cycle you thought would continue forever. You notice plans that always worked start falling apart without logical explanation. Conversations that used to flow naturally now feel fragmented. Responsibilities you once handled with ease suddenly feel heavy, almost out of place, as if they no longer belong to your identity. You might try to push through, hoping things will return to normal, but nothing seems to fit the same way. These interruptions are not punishments. They are divine signals that the season you are in is reaching completion. God disrupts your patterns to make you aware that the path you are walking is no longer aligned with the direction he is calling you toward. There is a moment when you begin sensing that your life is no longer synchronized with your spirit. You move the same way, but something feels disconnected. The days feel longer, the tasks feel heavier, the conversations feel emptier. Even the goals you once pursued with passion now feel distant, almost like they were written for a version of you that no longer exists. This is God awakening you. He uses the disruption not to break you, but to loosen your dependence on what has become familiar. He knows that if everything stayed comfortable, you would never consider that he might be guiding you somewhere new. These interruptions often come at unexpected times. Nothing seems wrong on the surface, yet nothing flows the way it used to. You may lose a sense of rhythm in your daily life. You may feel like your focus is drifting, your priorities shifting, your energy redirecting itself. This internal redirection is not a sign that you are unfocused. It is a sign that God is redirecting your attention. He is pulling your eyes away from what is ending and preparing your heart for what is beginning. He interrupts the predictable so you can finally hear the quiet instructions your busy life kept drowning out. Sometimes the interruption comes through people. Someone you relied on becomes distant. A relationship that defined your sense of stability begins to change. The support system you built starts to shift without explanation. This can feel disorienting, but it is often God's way of removing emotional anchors that would keep you tied to a place you were never meant to stay. When God interrupts relational patterns, it is because He is preparing to introduce new voices, new influences, and new environments aligned with your next chapter. Sometimes the interruption comes through circumstances. Opportunities slow down. Doors that were always open begin to close. Projects stall. Timing changes. What once required no effort now demands more than it should. These moments are frustrating, but they carry purpose. They are designed to prevent you from investing your energy into something that has reached its spiritual expiration date. God interrupts what no longer produces growth, so you can stop pouring yourself into places that cannot carry you into your destiny. There is also a deeper kind of interruption, the one that happens inside you. You begin questioning things you never questioned. You feel a pull to step away from environments that once felt natural. You sense that God is breaking your rhythm not to weaken you, but to sharpen your discernment. He is training your spirit to recognize the difference between living by habit and living by purpose. Predictable patterns make it easy to sleepwalk through life. Divine interruptions wake you up. If you ignore the interruption, you may start feeling a heaviness that does not come from physical exhaustion. It comes from spiritual misalignment. God is trying to guide you, but you are trying to maintain a rhythm He is dismantling. You feel the stretch between where you are and where God is calling you, and the more you resist, the stronger the discomfort becomes. This is not a sign that your life is falling apart. It is a sign that God wants you to stop clinging to a chapter that is no longer serving your spiritual growth. When God interrupts your predictable patterns, He is inviting you to pause, to listen, to look around, to pay attention to the details you normally overlook. These interruptions create space for divine instruction. They break the momentum of your old season so you can become aware of the new season forming beneath the surface. The disruption is not random. It is purposeful. God is slowing down what you built so He can rebuild what truly aligns with your calling. And once you begin recognizing His interruptions, you will understand that what felt like confusion was actually preparation for your next step. The weight of a decision you have been avoiding. There comes a moment when a decision you have pushed aside for weeks, months, or even years begins pressing on your spirit with a weight that can no longer be ignored. It is not just a thought that returns occasionally. It becomes a quiet burden, a persistent awareness that something in your life requires a choice you have been too afraid, too unsure, or too comfortable to make. This weight does not arrive to torment you. It arrives because God knows that your next season cannot unfold until you confront what you have been postponing. The heaviness is not punishment, it is divine insistence. At first, you may try to convince yourself that the decision is not urgent. You tell yourself that things will work themselves out with time. You hope the pressure will fade if you stay busy enough. Yet the more you try to ignore it, the stronger it becomes. You feel it when you wake up. You feel it in the quiet moments of your day. You feel it when you try to rest at night. It is a gentle tension that follows you everywhere, reminding you that God is calling you to choose, to step, to act. This internal weight is the evidence that God is directing your attention toward a threshold you must cross. The decision may involve leaving something that no longer aligns with your spirit, or embracing something new that scares you because of its uncertainty. It may involve releasing a relationship that has become spiritually stagnant, or stepping into an opportunity that demands courage you are not sure you possess. It may require confronting a truth you have avoided because you feared the consequences. But God knows that growth requires clarity, and clarity requires choice. You cannot carry the fullness of your calling while holding on to the fragments of a season that has ended. When God allows the weight of a decision to rest heavily on your heart, it is because He sees what you cannot. He sees the cost of staying where you are. He sees the blessing on the other side of obedience. He sees the doors that will remain closed until you decide to move. He sees the identity that will never emerge unless you step into the chapter He designed for you. This is why the decision feels heavier over time. It is not your mind overthinking, it is your spirit recognizing that delay has begun to interfere with destiny. You may find yourself torn between the fear of making the wrong choice and the fear of remaining unchanged. This tension is sacred. God uses it to refine your discernment. You begin asking deeper questions. You begin examining your motives. You begin confronting the truths you tried to avoid. The weight forces you to become honest with yourself, and honesty becomes the gate through which divine direction enters. God is not rushing you. He is awakening you. He is dismantling the illusions that made you comfortable in indecision. The more you resist, the more the pressure builds. You feel restless, even when nothing external is happening. You feel a spiritual tug, pulling you toward a direction you cannot fully explain. You feel the dissatisfaction of staying in a place where your purpose cannot breathe. This growing discomfort is not emotional instability. It is God preparing you to choose what aligns with His plan. He removes the false peace that kept you stagnant so you can finally confront the truth that movement is necessary. There is also a moment when the weight becomes too heavy to carry silently. You reach a point where pretending no longer works. You sense that your spirit is shifting and your life must shift with it. This moment is holy. It is where obedience is born. God does not want you to make the decision out of fear. He wants you to make it out of trust. He wants you to understand that every step you take in alignment with His will opens a path you never knew was possible. The decision you fear is often the doorway to the life you have been praying for. And when you finally choose, when you finally step into what God has been urging you toward, something inside you unlocks. The heaviness lifts. The confusion clears, the spiritual pressure dissolves. You feel the release that only comes from obedience. You realize the weight was never meant to break you. It was meant to guide you. It was meant to push you toward the life God has been preparing while you were hesitating. Every moment of tension makes sense the moment you step in faith. Udro, the unsettling calm before God's shift. There is a unique moment in the spiritual journey when everything around you grows strangely quiet, almost peaceful. Yet something deep inside refuses to settle. It feels like stillness, but not the kind that brings rest. It is the kind that makes you pay attention. You sense a calm that does not match your circumstances. You sense a quiet that feels intentional, purposeful, almost sacred. This is the calm that comes before God moves. It is His way of stilling the noise around you so you can discern what He is about to do within you. You might feel as though life has paused. The chaos that usually surrounds you slows down. Conversations become fewer. Distractions fade on their own. Opportunities seem to step aside. It is as if God is clearing the atmosphere around your spirit. In this calm, you begin noticing things you ignored before. You start becoming more aware of your thoughts, your emotions, your desires, your frustrations. You begin to see the truth of your season with unusual clarity. This is not random. God often brings a quiet stillness right before he shifts your direction because he wants you to hear him without interference. This unsettling calm can feel confusing because it carries two opposing sensations at once. On the surface, you feel steady. Inside, you feel alert. You feel grounded yet expectant. You feel stable yet aware that change is approaching. It is like standing in the moments before a sunrise. Nothing has happened yet, but the atmosphere announces that something is coming. God uses this silence as preparation. He slows the momentum of your current life to prepare you for the momentum of the next season. When God is about to move you, he steadies your spirit so you will not panic when the shift begins. During this calm, old frustrations lose their power. The battles you used to fight no longer stir the same emotions. Things that once triggered you now feel distant, almost irrelevant. This is a sign that God is releasing you from the emotional attachments of your current season. He is detaching your heart from battles that no longer belong to your journey. The calm is not weakness, it is transition. It is the spiritual release that happens before the physical movement. God is loosening what has held you so that you will be free to step into what he is preparing. You may also notice a growing sense of anticipation that does not come from excitement. It comes from discernment. You feel something shifting beneath the surface of your life. You cannot describe it, but you know it is real. You sense that the chapter you are in is reaching its final pages, even if nothing outward confirms it. This discernment is God's way of aligning your heart with his timing. The calm helps you sense his direction without the noise of fear or doubt. It is his gentle announcement that the season is changing, and your spirit can feel it before anything around you reflects it. In this calm, conversations with others may feel different. You may feel less drawn to certain people, less engaged in certain dynamics, less attached to certain environments. You may feel a desire to withdraw, not out of sadness, but out of spiritual sensitivity. God is pulling you inward so he can speak to you in ways you could not hear when life was louder. He often speaks the clearest in the moments when everything else grows silent. This calm is the environment where revelation is born. At times, the calm may feel unsettling because it creates space for thoughts you have avoided. You begin seeing the truth about your relationships, your habits, your desires, and your limitations. You begin realizing that certain things cannot follow you into your next season. This awareness is not meant to overwhelm you. It is meant to prepare you. God brings calm so you can see what needs to be released without the urgency or panic that emotional turbulence creates. He offers clarity without chaos. This calm is also protective. Before God accelerates your steps, he strengthens your spirit. Before he opens the next door, he fortifies your heart. Before he interrupts your life with a breakthrough, he centers you so the blessing does not shake you. The calm is God's way of telling you that you are safe in his hands, even though change is approaching. He steadies you because the transition ahead carries weight. He prepares you because the movement ahead requires courage. As the calm deepens, you may wonder why you feel so still when nothing around you demands it. You may question whether you are doing enough or moving fast enough. But the truth is simple. You are in the pause before the shift. You are in the sacred space between what was and what will be. God quiets your world so he can align your steps. He settles your emotions so he can strengthen your faith. He brings a supernatural peace that does not match your circumstances so that you will recognize his hand when the change arrives. When this calm comes, do not run from it. Do not rush it. Let it speak. Let it guide you. Let it prepare you. Because when God stills your spirit in this way, It is only because he is about to move you in a direction he has already prepared. And when the shift begins, you will understand why he first brought you into the quiet. When your gifts outgrow your environment. There comes a moment when the abilities God placed inside you begin to feel too large for the space you are living in. It is not pride, and it is not ambition. It is the quiet realization that what once challenged you now barely stretches you. Your creativity no longer flows in the same way because the environment cannot contain the growth happening within you. The conversations around you no longer feed your purpose. The responsibilities that once felt meaningful now feel restrictive. This is one of the clearest signs that God is preparing you to step into a new season. Your gifts begin to expand before your surroundings do, and the tension you feel is the evidence that change is near. At first, you may try to ignore this feeling. You may think you are being ungrateful or impatient. You may tell yourself that you should be satisfied where you are. But spiritual growth does not obey convenience. When God increases your capacity, the space that once felt right begins to feel narrow. You feel your calling stretching beyond the limits of your current reality. You sense potential rising inside you that you cannot fully express where you are. This internal expansion is not a sign that something is wrong. It is a sign that something is unfolding. God allows your gifts to outgrow the environment so you will not settle in a place that cannot support your destiny. You might start noticing that your ideas feel too big for the people around you to understand. Your dreams feel too wide for the structures that surround you. The opportunities you long for cannot emerge in the soil you are planted in. This creates a pressure that is not emotional, but spiritual. You feel a pull to create more, to serve deeper, to live with greater purpose. But every time you try to stretch, you hit the edges of the environment you are in. This is not coincidence. This is God enlarging your spirit so you will be willing to move when He opens the door. There is a moment when your internal growth becomes impossible to ignore. You feel a divine restlessness that does not come from dissatisfaction, but from readiness. Your gift begins waking up in ways that surprise you. Your thoughts become sharper. Your passions intensify. You start seeing possibilities that never crossed your mind before. God is activating new layers of who you are, and your current environment cannot hold the fullness of what He is awakening. The more you grow, the tighter the space feels. The tighter the space feels, the clearer the message becomes. You are not meant to stay where you are. Sometimes the environment is a workplace that no longer challenges you. Sometimes it is a routine that no longer stretches your abilities. Sometimes it is a relationship that cannot support your evolution. Sometimes it is an atmosphere that keeps you small when God is calling you into fullness. When your gift outgrows your environment, you may feel misunderstood. You may feel unseen. You may feel like your potential is invisible to the people around you. Do not let this discourage you. The people in your current environment were assigned to your past season, not your next one. God is preparing to position you where your gift can breathe. This expansion can feel uncomfortable because it reveals everything that no longer aligns with your growth. You begin noticing the limitations around you with painful clarity. You sense the ceiling above you that once felt distant, now pressing down on your spirit. You realize you cannot keep shrinking yourself to fit inside a space God is calling you to leave. This realization is painful, but it is holy. It is the moment when your purpose becomes louder than your comfort. You cannot stay where you are without betraying the potential God placed inside you. When God allows your gifts to grow beyond your environment, He is not trying to frustrate you. He is trying to prepare you. He is stretching your identity so you will not cling to a place that cannot sustain your calling. He is expanding your vision so you will recognize the opportunities He is about to send. He is deepening your hunger, so you will not settle for less than what He created you to carry. Growth is evidence that God is moving even when your life looks still. As your gifts grow, you may feel caught between who you were and who you are becoming. This is a sacred tension. The old environment no longer fits, but the new one has not yet been revealed. Do not rush this stage. This is where God shapes your character, sharpens your discernment, and prepares your heart for the transition He is designing. He is teaching you to trust Him when the space around you shrinks, but the purpose within you expands. When your gifts outgrow your environment, it is the clearest indication that a shift is coming. God does not allow you to remain in places that minimize what He has maximized inside you. He will not let you hide your light in spaces too small to display His glory. The discomfort you feel is the announcement that God is positioning you for greater. And when the door opens, you will understand that the pressure you felt was preparing you for the elevation He already planned. The gentle separation. God begins in your heart. There comes a moment when God begins to separate you internally from people, places, and patterns long before anything changes externally. It does not happen through conflict or sudden emotional breaks. It happens quietly, in the hidden spaces of your heart. You begin noticing a soft distance forming between you and the environments that once felt essential to your identity. You may still show up in the same places, speak to the same people, follow the same routines, yet something in your spirit no longer attaches itself the way it once did. This is not coldness, and it is not withdrawal. It is preparation. God gently separates your heart before He separates your life. At first, you might struggle to understand this shift. You feel affection, yet not alignment. You feel gratitude, yet not belonging. You feel present, yet not connected. Conversations that once filled your spirit now feel shallow. Environments that once felt safe now feel temporary. You sense a quiet loosening, almost like God Himself is untangling your heart from attachments that cannot sustain your next season. This gentle separation is not rejection. It is protection. God removes your emotional dependence on what He is preparing to move you away from, so that when the shift comes, your heart will not break where it was never meant to remain. This separation often begins subtly. You may feel a growing desire for solitude, not because you are overwhelmed, but because your spirit is transitioning. You need space to breathe, space to think, space to listen. Your heart begins craving silence over noise, depth over distraction, purpose over familiarity. These desires are signs that God is drawing you closer to Him so He can reshape your identity without the interference of external influences. The more you lean into this quiet pull, the clearer your spirit becomes. God is preparing you for a season where clarity will matter more than comfort. Relationships that once felt inseparable may start feeling different, not broken and not strained, just different. The emotional grip they once had over you begins to loosen. You no longer feel the same urgency to please, to prove, to belong. God is freeing you from emotional dependencies that have limited your growth. He is creating space for new connections, new mentors, new environments, and new alignments that carry the weight of your destiny. This shift may feel strange, especially if you care deeply for the people around you. But God knows that the relationships built for your past cannot always carry your future. You may also notice changes in your desires. Things you once loved begin losing their appeal. Habits that once comforted you no longer satisfy. Passions that once energized you now feel hollow. This is not confusion, it is refinement. God is removing old desires to make room for new ones. He is resetting your priorities so they reflect who you are becoming, not who you used to be. The separation often begins in the heart because your heart is the engine of your direction. Wherever your heart stays attached, your life will follow. So God gently shifts your attachments to guide your path. This internal separation can feel bittersweet. Part of you wants to hold on to what has been familiar and comforting. Another part of you feels an undeniable pull towards something unknown. You are caught between gratitude for your past and anticipation for your future. This tension is holy. It is in this space that God reveals the truth about your season. You begin seeing with new eyes. You begin recognizing the emotional weight of trying to stay somewhere you have outgrown. You begin understanding why certain connections no longer have the same depth. God is preparing your heart so that when He moves you, you will move with peace rather than resistance. The gentle separation is one of God's deepest expressions of love. He does not rip you away from what is familiar. He loosens your attachment layer by layer until the transition becomes bearable. He allows certain things to fade slowly so you can release them without feeling abandoned. He allows your heart to shift before your life does so, that when the external change arrives, it does not feel like loss. It feels like alignment. God separates your heart first because He wants you to recognize His hand in the shift rather than interpreting it as rejection or instability. During this process, you may feel misunderstood by those who do not sense the shift you are experiencing. They may still see you in the context of who you used to be, not who you are becoming. They may question your distance or your quietness. You do not owe explanations during this season. God is doing an internal work that others cannot see. He is preparing you privately for a change that will manifest publicly. People do not need to understand the separation for it to be real. The movement of your spirit is evidence enough. As the separation deepens, you may feel a mix of serenity and sadness. Serenity because your spirit recognizes that God is leading you somewhere better. Sadness because releasing what once mattered is always emotional. God makes space for both. He is gentle with your heart because He knows how deeply you have invested in the places and people that shaped your journey. But He also knows that your next chapter requires room your current season cannot provide. When God begins this gentle separation, trust the process. Do not cling to what is fading. Do not resist what your heart is releasing. God is not taking something from you. He is preparing you for what is coming. When the shift finally arrives, you will realize that the emotional distance you felt was not emptiness. It was God creating space for the life He has been preparing for you all along. The opportunities that appear too timely to be coincidence. There comes a moment in your spiritual journey when certain opportunities appear with such precision, such timing, such alignment, that you cannot attribute them to luck or chance. They arrive exactly when your spirit has been restless, exactly when your environment has grown tight, exactly when your heart has been preparing for movement. These moments feel intentional because they are. God often reveals the next step not through grand supernatural displays, but through opportunities that show up at the very moment you needed direction. They carry a sense of divine timing that your spirit recognizes even when your mind hesitates. At first, you may try to dismiss these opportunities as coincidences. You may tell yourself that it is not the right time, or that you are not ready, or that you should not read too deeply into things. Yet the more you reflect, the more undeniable the alignment becomes. The opportunity shows up in a way that fits perfectly with the internal shifts you have been experiencing. It speaks directly to the desires God has been awakening in your heart. It matches the direction your spirit has been leaning toward. These timely openings do not demand your attention by force. They whisper to your intuition. They feel like invitations rather than disruptions. You might begin to notice doors opening where there were none before. A conversation that seems casual ends up pointing you towards something you have been praying about. A chance encounter leads to clarity you did not expect. Someone mentions an idea that aligns with a vision you kept hidden in your heart. An option you never considered suddenly becomes available. These moments carry a subtle sense of destiny. They feel too aligned to be accidental. God often orchestrates these connections to show you that the season is shifting. He brings opportunities at the exact moment your spirit is prepared to receive them. These moments are meant to build your trust. God knows that change can be overwhelming. He knows that stepping into new territory requires courage. So he often softens the transition by sending opportunities that confirm what he has already been stirring inside you. They appear with the right timing, the right tone, the right clarity. They come in a way that speaks to the deepest part of your spirit, reassuring you that you are not imagining the shift. This is how God guides without forcing. He aligns circumstances so precisely that you begin to recognize his fingerprints on them. You may also experience opportunities that expose the limitations of your current environment. Something new appears, and suddenly you see how small your present space has become. A conversation opens your eyes to possibilities beyond your routine. A new connection reveals that your gift can flourish in places you never considered. These moments are not meant to make you discontent. They are meant to help you see the truth. God reveals new paths to show you that staying where you are no longer aligns with who you are becoming. Sometimes these timely opportunities appear in the form of challenges rather than blessings. A door closes in one area but opens in another. An unexpected change forces you to consider something you would not have thought about willingly. A disruption at work pushes you to explore a new direction. These moments still carry divine timing because God often uses pressure to guide you into places you would hesitate to enter. The opportunity might not look appealing at first, but deep in your spirit you sense that it is part of the path God is shaping for you. When opportunities appear this precisely, fear may try to convince you that it is safer to stay where you are. You may question whether you deserve the chance. You may wonder if you are capable. You may feel overwhelmed by the weight of choosing something unfamiliar, but the fact that the opportunity arrived at this exact moment should tell you something important. God never aligns what is not meant for you. He never presents a door if he has not already prepared you to walk through it. Even if you feel unready, your spirit knows you have been growing toward this moment. These opportunities are also tests of trust. God wants to know whether you will cling to the comfort of your current season or step into the unknown he has been preparing. He places these perfectly timed openings in front of you to awaken your boldness. He nudges you to recognize that he is guiding your steps even when the path feels uncertain. When you sense his timing in the opportunity, you are already being called to move. Your spirit feels it first. Your obedience brings it to life. There will be moments when the opportunity looks small, almost insignificant, but something in your heart tells you it is important. Do not ignore these impressions. God often hides great shifts inside small openings. What looks minor today may become the doorway to your destiny tomorrow. The significance of these opportunities is not measured by size, but by alignment. When something appears at the precise moment your heart is questioning, searching, or awakening, it carries divine purpose. When God aligns an opportunity so perfectly, it is his way of saying that the time has come. He is showing you that he is in the details. He is guiding you through confirmation rather than confusion. And when you step into what he has aligned, you discover that the opportunity was not random. It was the bridge to the next chapter of your life, prepared long before you recognized the need for it. These timely moments are divine invitations. When they appear, your spirit knows the truth. It is time to move. The emotional echo. When the same message reaches you from different directions, there comes a moment when the same message begins to follow you everywhere, echoing through your day in ways you cannot ignore. You hear it in conversations that seem unrelated. You see it in scriptures you did not intend to read. You notice it in sermons, songs, or stories that appear at the exact moment your heart is searching for clarity. Even random moments begin speaking the same truth. It feels as if life itself has become a mirror, reflecting one single message back to you. This is not coincidence. This is God speaking through repetition, aligning your environment with the direction He wants you to acknowledge. At first, you might dismiss these moments as ordinary. You hear the same phrase or idea, and you assume it is just a pattern your mind created. But the more this message repeats, the harder it becomes to ignore. You start noticing that the repetition feels intentional. It shows up when you are questioning something. It appears when you are wrestling with uncertainty. It returns when you try to silence the thoughts in your spirit. This emotional echo is one of God's gentlest yet most powerful ways of confirming that He is trying to get your attention. He repeats what you refuse to face. Sometimes the echo comes through people who have no idea what you're going through. They speak words that perfectly match the tension inside your heart. You wonder how they knew, but they didn't. God simply used their voice to reinforce what He is trying to awaken within you. Their words feel strangely aligned with your private prayers, almost as if they were reading your thoughts. This alignment is not accidental. It is a sign that God is guiding you through voices you did not expect, confirming His message from directions you could not anticipate. Other times, the echo reaches you through moments of silence. A thought rises in your spirit repeatedly, even when you try to distract yourself. It returns while you work, while you rest, while you pray, while you attempt to move on from it. The message ties itself to your attention, not to overwhelm you, but to guide you. God often speaks to your spirit long before He speaks through circumstances. When your spirit keeps hearing the same truth, it is because God knows that repetition will help you discern what you have been trying to ignore. There are moments when the emotional echo becomes so persistent that you feel surrounded by the same theme from every direction. A conversation confirms it, a verse reinforces it, a memory brings it back, a circumstance mirrors it. Even your own thoughts begin circling around the same idea. This pattern can feel unsettling because it forces you to acknowledge the truth your heart has been quietly resisting. God knows that clarity often requires repetition. He knows that your spirit understands slowly when fear is involved. So He echoes the truth until your courage catches up with your calling. This echo does not come to pressure you. It comes to prepare you. God wants you to know that the shift He is calling you into is not based on emotion or impulse. It is anchored in confirmation. Every repeated message is a thread He weaves to form a clear and undeniable direction. The repetition is His way of ensuring that doubt does not rob you of what He is preparing. It is His way of guiding you without forcing your will. It is His way of comforting you with alignment before you encounter change. Sometimes the emotional echo brings conviction. You feel drawn to let go of something you have been holding on to. You feel pushed to confront a truth you have avoided. The same message appears not to shame you, but to steer you. God repeats what He wants you to release and what He wants you to embrace. The echo exposes the areas where your life is out of alignment, not to make you feel inadequate, but to show you that He is ready to realign you with His purpose. Other times, the echo brings encouragement. You hear the same reassurance in multiple places. You sense God strengthening your heart through repeated promises. You hear words like trust, move, surrender, begin again. These echoes come to build confidence in the steps you are preparing to take. God reinforces hope when you need courage and repeats truth when you need direction. The echo becomes a steady hand, pushing you toward clarity. When the emotional echo becomes unavoidable, it is a sign that God's message is reaching its final stage. He repeats it until your spirit recognizes that the season of hesitation is ending. The alignment of messages is proof that God is guiding your path with intentionality. He wants you to know that you are not hearing these things by accident. You are being prepared for movement. You are being equipped for the shift coming toward you. You are being reassured that the direction your heart keeps returning to is not imagination. It is instruction. As the repetition deepens, the message becomes familiar. It no longer feels like a random thought. It feels like truth. It carries weight. It resonates. It settles into your spirit with a clarity that silences doubt. This is the moment when God confirms that you are ready to acknowledge what you could not face before. The emotional echo reveals what God has been saying all along, and once you hear it clearly, you realize it was not just a message, it was your sign. Azidov, the door that does not close but no longer feels right. There comes a moment when the path you are walking still functions, still stands open, still looks familiar, yet something inside you senses that it is no longer where you are meant to be. Nothing dramatic has happened. The door has not slammed shut. The opportunities have not disappeared. Life has not collapsed. Everything appears the same, yet your spirit feels different. The place that once felt like a blessing now feels like a boundary. The environment that once felt purposeful now feels misaligned. This is one of the most subtle yet powerful signs that God is preparing you to step away. The door remains open, not for you to stay, but for you to choose to walk forward. At first, this shift confuses you. You tell yourself that if the door were no longer meant for you, God would close it completely. You wait for a clear ending, a firm sign, a dramatic break. But instead, you feel a quiet discomfort living inside a place that still technically works. This internal tension is not indecision, it is revelation. God is showing you that not every open door is meant to be walked through forever. Some doors stay open as a test of discernment. You are meant to leave because your spirit has outgrown the room, not because the room collapsed. You might notice that your fulfillment begins to fade. The tasks you once enjoyed now drain you. The environments you once admired now feel restrictive. The relationships connected to the door still matter, but they no longer reflect who you are becoming. You do not feel anger or conflict. You feel distance. You feel a quiet, knowing that this chapter has completed its purpose. When God is calling you into a new season, He often removes the emotional attachment before He removes the opportunity. This is how He prepares your heart to move. You may start questioning why the door feels wrong when nothing external has changed. You may doubt yourself. You may wonder if you are being ungrateful or restless. But then you realize that your spirit no longer finds nourishment in what used to feed you. The alignment is gone, the peace is gone, the joy is gone. Not because something is broken, but because you are evolving. God is preparing you for a space where your growth will be supported, not limited. A space where your purpose will expand, not shrink. This moment is difficult because the door is not harmful, it is not toxic, it is not a place of destruction. It is simply a place that your season has passed. These are the hardest doors to leave because they still offer stability. They still offer familiarity. They still offer comfort. But God does not call you to comfort. He calls you to purpose. When the door remains open but no longer feels right, He is teaching you to follow His voice instead of your convenience. You may sense a pull towards something new, even if you cannot define it yet. A desire to stretch, a desire to grow, a desire to experience something deeper, richer, more aligned with your calling. This desire is not a distraction, it is direction. God stirs your spirit before He shifts your life. He places longing inside you so that when the new door appears, you have the courage to step through it without clinging to what feels safe. As this inner disconnection increases, you might find yourself feeling emotionally distant from the door, Even while physically present, you begin observing the environment rather than belonging to it. You feel like a visitor in a place you used to call home. This sensation can feel strange, but it is one of God's clearest signals. He is removing your sense of belonging from a season that cannot carry your future. He is preparing you to leave without the grief of thinking you abandoned something that was meant to stay. Often, this type of door remains open because God wants you to practice discernment. It is easy to walk away from pain. It is much harder to walk away from comfort. But spiritual maturity requires you to leave even when staying feels easier. It requires you to trust the internal guidance of the Holy Spirit more than the external stability of circumstances. When the door no longer feels right, God is teaching you to recognize that alignment matters more than availability. Sometimes God leaves the door open so that your departure can be peaceful rather than abrupt. He allows you to step away gradually, with clarity, with dignity, with purpose. He prepares your heart so that when you move with conviction instead of confusion. He lets you see the truth gently, so the transition becomes a step of faith rather than an act of desperation. And there comes a moment, after all the quiet shifts, all the emotional changes, all the internal nudges, when you finally admit the truth. You know you cannot stay. You know the door is not where your future resides. You know that God has prepared something beyond this hallway. The door remains open only to reveal that you have changed. The season has changed, the calling has changed, and staying would require you to shrink into a version of yourself that God has already outgrown. When this realization arrives, it becomes clear. The door was never meant to close, you were meant to outgrow it. And once you acknowledge this truth, you understand that the uneasiness was not loss. It was guidance. It was God whispering that your next chapter is waiting for your courage to begin. Divine timing hidden inside discomfort. There comes a point in your journey when the discomfort you feel is not a sign of something breaking, but a sign of something beginning. It does not show up as chaos or crisis. It shows up as a slow and growing realization that staying where you are requires more emotional effort than moving forward. It shows up as exhaustion that has nothing to do with physical energy and everything to do with spiritual misalignment. This discomfort is quiet, persistent, and impossible to ignore once it settles into your spirit. It is the way God signals that His timing has shifted, even if your circumstances have not yet caught up. At first, you may assume you are simply overwhelmed or tired. You may tell yourself you need rest, a vacation, a distraction. But rest does not restore you. Breaks do not refresh you. Entertainment does not lighten the weight inside your chest. The discomfort remains, asking the same question every day. Why are you still here? This is not a question of frustration, it is a question of purpose. God often speaks through a deep internal discomfort when He is calling you out of a season that can no longer support your growth. You are not tired, you are being prepared. The discomfort becomes clearer when you start noticing how your spirit reacts differently to the same routines. What once felt normal now feels draining. What once inspired you now feels empty. What once made sense now feels pointless. The shift does not happen because the environment changed. It happens because God is enlarging your spirit, and your environment can no longer accommodate who you are becoming. Discomfort is often the first evidence that divine timing has moved ahead of your willingness to move with it. God allows the old season to lose its grip so the new season can gain your attention. You may also notice that the discomfort deepens when you resist the internal nudge. The more you cling to what God is releasing you from, the heavier the weight becomes. The more you postpone decisions He is urging you to confront, the more drained you feel. This is not God punishing you. It is God protecting you. He allows discomfort to guard you against the danger of remaining in places that no longer align with your purpose. Staying in the wrong season is more harmful than stepping into the unknown. Discomfort is God's way of preventing you from settling where you were never meant to build permanence. There are moments when the discomfort exposes the truth about your attachments. You begin realizing that certain habits no longer make sense. Certain relationships no longer carry the same meaning. Certain goals no longer reflect the person you are becoming. Discomfort reveals the gap between your current life and your future identity. It helps you see the difference between what is familiar and what is faithful to God's plan for you. Divine timing often hides itself inside this emotional friction. When everything in your life still works, but nothing in your spirit agrees with it, you are standing at the edge of a God-ordained transition. This discomfort may cause you to question your own stability. You wonder why you cannot feel satisfied with what once satisfied you. You wonder why you feel disconnected from routines you used to enjoy. You wonder why your spirit feels restless even when your circumstances look secure. The answer is simple. God has already opened the next chapter, and your spirit can feel the pull even if you cannot yet see the direction. Discomfort is the bridge between where you are and where God is calling you to go. Sometimes the discomfort shows up through a series of internal realizations. You notice that you are no longer inspired by the conversations you are part of. You sense that the work you do does not reflect your calling anymore. You recognize that the environment that once challenged you now restricts you. These realizations are sacred. They are God awakening your discernment. He does not always close doors dramatically. Sometimes He lets you outgrow them quietly. The discomfort is your confirmation that you are ready to leave a season that has already ended spiritually. Other times, the discomfort is tied to a deep longing, a longing for something you cannot name, a longing for more meaning, more impact, more alignment, a longing that grows stronger each time you try to silence it. That longing is not dissatisfaction, it is direction. God often places desire before opportunity. He awakens your hunger before He reveals your next step. The longing is the emotional signal that divine timing has shifted. God never places desire in your heart without preparing a place for it to flourish. Divine timing often feels confusing because it calls you forward before it shows you forward. You feel the discomfort before you see the door. You sense the shift before you know where to step. You feel the transition before you have the map. But God uses this tension to build trust. He wants you to move not because everything is clear, but because everything inside you knows that staying is no longer possible. Discomfort becomes the voice that tells you the season has changed. And there comes a moment, after all the wrestling, after all the questioning, after all the hesitation, when the discomfort becomes impossible to dismiss. Not because it becomes louder, but because your awareness becomes sharper. You realize that the weight you feel is not confusion. It is calling. It is God's way of telling you that His timing has arrived. The chapter is turning. The shift is happening. The movement is beginning. The discomfort was never meant to break you. It was meant to lead you into the life God prepared, long before you recognized the need for change. The holy acceleration. When things suddenly move faster than you expected, there comes a moment in the spiritual journey when life begins to accelerate in ways that catch you completely off guard. For a long time, everything felt slow. You prayed, you waited, you hoped, and nothing seemed to shift. Then suddenly, in a period so brief you can hardly process it, events begin aligning with unusual speed. Opportunities appear without effort. Conversations lead to breakthroughs. Doors open before you even knock. What once felt impossible begins unfolding with such clarity and force that you know it could only be God. This sudden acceleration is one of the clearest signs that divine timing has moved from preparation to manifestation. At first, this acceleration might feel overwhelming. You are used to waiting. You are used to delays, setbacks, and silence. You are used to asking God why nothing is moving. Then, without warning, everything begins moving at once. The pace feels almost unnatural compared to the stillness you endured. But this rapid unfolding is not a coincidence. It is God redeeming time. It is God making up for the seasons when everything felt stagnant. It is God showing you that when His timing arrives, nothing can slow what He has ordained. This acceleration often starts with subtle shifts. You sense a renewed energy. You feel clarity where confusion once lived. You find yourself thinking differently, responding differently, noticing opportunities you would have overlooked before. The change begins inside you before it appears around you. God aligns your heart with His movement so that when the acceleration starts, you are not caught unprepared. Your spirit becomes ready for the momentum long before your mind fully understands it. Then the external acceleration begins. A conversation leads to an open door you did not expect. A delayed answer suddenly arrives at the perfect moment. Someone reaches out unexpectedly with exactly what you needed. Projects that were stuck begin progressing effortlessly. Finances shift, relationships evolve, possibilities that seemed distant become immediate. God has a way of compressing years of waiting into moments of breakthrough. He does not move slowly when the time is right. He moves boldly, decisively, and unmistakably. This rapid movement can feel unreal, because you spent so long in seasons where every step required spiritual endurance. You waited for signs, for clarity, for momentum. Now the momentum is happening so quickly that you feel like you are trying to catch your breath. But this is the nature of holy acceleration. When God decides to shift your life, He does not move one piece at a time. He aligns everything at once. He brings people, opportunities, resources, and clarity into position in a way that only He could orchestrate. You are not experiencing chaos. You are experiencing divine synchronization. You may also feel a mix of excitement and fear during this acceleration. Excitement because you can sense that God is fulfilling what He promised. Fear because the pace demands trust. Holy acceleration requires you to release control. It requires you to walk by faith rather than certainty. It requires you to move with God, even when the next step appears faster than you would choose. But do not let fear slow what God is speeding up. This acceleration is not meant to overwhelm you. It is meant to elevate you. Sometimes the acceleration reveals why you had to wait so long. You begin seeing how God protected you from stepping into a season prematurely. You begin understanding why certain doors remained closed until now. You realize that if God had moved earlier, you would not have been prepared. The connections would not have aligned. The opportunities would have overwhelmed you. The character and strength you have now would not have existed. Holy acceleration comes only when your spirit is capable of carrying what God is releasing. When God is warning you to move, don't ignore this sign. This acceleration also exposes what cannot come with you. As God speeds your steps, certain relationships, habits, or environments can no longer keep pace. They fall away not because you abandoned them, but because they were never meant for the speed of your calling. When God accelerates your life, He separates what was temporary from what is eternal. You begin seeing the difference between what sustained your past and what will support your future. This clarity is not loss, it is alignment. There is a moment in holy acceleration when everything begins to make sense. You see how the waiting shaped you. You see how the delays refined you. You see how the discomfort prepared you. You see how the gentle separations protected you. You see how the timely opportunities positioned you. Now, with everything moving quickly, you recognize that every part of the journey had purpose. The acceleration is not random. It is the culmination of every lesson, every prayer, every tear, and every moment of obedience. And then comes the realization you cannot ignore. God is not just moving things around you, He is moving you. He is pushing you into your next chapter with a force that cannot be resisted. You feel the wind of change on your back. You feel the momentum of destiny beneath your feet. You feel the urgency of a season that has finally arrived. This is holy acceleration. This is God saying the waiting is over, the preparation is complete, the path is open, now move. The awakening moment. When you realize this message is your sign, there comes a moment when everything you have been feeling, questioning and wrestling with suddenly aligns, as if a veil has been lifted from your understanding. It is not dramatic, yet it is profound. It is the instant when your spirit finally admits what it has been sensing for a long time. You are not here by accident. You are not hearing these words by coincidence. You are standing in the very moment God prepared to confirm everything He has been whispering into your heart. This is the awakening, the moment when truth becomes undeniable, when hesitation breaks, when clarity rises through the confusion like light breaking through a long night. At first, you may try to reason your way out of this realization. You might tell yourself that you are overthinking, that it is just emotion, that it is just timing. But the more you listen, the more you feel a deep and steady recognition inside you. It is a recognition that does not come from logic. It comes from God's Spirit speaking directly to yours. Every moment you heard in this message mirrors something you have been experiencing privately. Every description reflects a part of your journey you could not articulate. The patterns you tried to ignore, the restlessness you tried to silence, the shifts you tried to explain now make sense with startling clarity. You are awakening to the truth that God has been guiding you step by step, patiently, deliberately, lovingly. There is a quiet strength that rises in the awakening moment. It is the strength of understanding that you are not lost, you are not confused, you are not behind, you are in transition. God has been preparing you without your awareness. He has been loosening what needed to be released, rearranging what needed to shift, stirring what needed to awaken. He has been orchestrating moments, aligning confirmations, sending echoes, shaping desires. Everything you felt was not random. It was the language God used to lead you toward this very realization. The moment of awakening is the moment your spirit decides to stop questioning and start listening. As this realization settles, you begin to see your journey differently. You begin recognizing the ways God protected you from decisions that would have limited your future. You see how He allowed certain doors to feel wrong, even when they stayed open. You see how He gently detached your heart from environments that could not carry your next season. You see how He used discomfort to draw your attention to His timing. You see how every delay, every shift, every longing had meaning. What once felt like uncertainty now reveals itself as preparation. God has been guiding you quietly, waiting for the moment your heart could finally understand. This awakening is not only about recognizing the past, it is also about acknowledging the responsibility of the present. You cannot unsee what your spirit has understood. You cannot pretend the shift is not happening. You cannot cling to the old season now that you recognize its expiration. Awakening brings clarity, and clarity requires courage. You now understand that the signs you felt were not nudges. They were instructions. The stirrings inside you were not emotional noise. They were divine communication. And this moment right now is God confirming that the time to move has arrived. There is also a deep peace that comes with awakening. Not the peace of comfort, but the peace of alignment. You feel calm not because the path ahead is easy, but because the path ahead is right. You feel certainty not because you know every detail, but because you know God is guiding each step. You feel ready not because you feel strong, but because you finally understand that God is leading you into a season built specifically for the person you have become. This peace is the signature of God's confirmation. When the awakening comes, it brings peace that does not rely on circumstances. And then comes the final truth, the truth that ties every moment of this message together, the truth that your spirit has been waiting to hear. This is your sign. This is your confirmation. This is the moment God aligned for you to recognize His voice clearly. Everything you have been sensing, everything you have been feeling, everything you have been carrying has been leading to this awakening. You are not hearing these words by accident. You are not receiving this clarity by chance. God brought you here on purpose at the exact moment your heart was ready to understand. This is the moment where hesitation ends and movement begins. The moment where uncertainty gives way to obedience. The moment where you realize that God has not been silent. He has been speaking through every whisper, every echo, every shift. And now that you see it clearly, now that your spirit recognizes the truth, there is only one thing left to do. Step into the direction He has been guiding you toward. Your awakening is your sign. Your sign is your instruction. And your instruction is simple: move.